Welcome back to another episode of Enterprise AI News. I'm your host, Troy Angranon, and I'm here with my co-host, Ian Wilson. Ian, what have you got for us today?
Okay, today we're going to take a look at some of the things that Google are doing, particularly in the enterprise space. And the first one I want to take a look at is Cloud Contact Center AI platform. Now, Google have been doing some amazing stuff in the contact center space with AI, and the key driver for this is all about automation. And there's a lot of aspects to contact center AI. They list some of the things here: orchestration, leveraging CRM, predicting customer needs. A lot of this is driven by their natural language understanding and natural language generation technologies. So it's not only that they can help automate the flow through your contact center, they can automate also a lot of the conversations. So, they say delivered via virtual or human agent. And of course, over time, that component of the virtual agent is going to increase because Google have pretty much state-of-the-art technology in speech generation, natural language generation, which is basically having an agent, a virtual agent that sounds like somebody talking. And in many cases, I've heard it so natural that people struggle to distinguish between that and a human. So you can get on the contact center potentially, complete automation. That's a bit of an end goal, but obviously they're very much moving forward in that direction. But there's a couple of really interesting, larger kind of meta aspects from this that I think we want to take a look at. One is that this is almost an entire contact center in a box. So this really looks at and is a good indicator of where we're moving to in terms of some AI capabilities. So we started with raw technology, we went to applications, then we went to services, and now Google's using AI to build almost a business function. So it's really broadening the scope of what's possible with AI. So you're getting almost a business function in a box, not even an AI as a service, which is kind of the state of the art right now. So I think that's really interesting. Another is it really plays to this dichotomy that we have within the enterprise of build versus buy. Because if you look at this now, if you've gone through the pain of trying to build out an AI service in your contact center, and I've been doing that, I've been doing that, or was doing contact center 20 years ago. So you could have spent 10 years building out your own contact center using the latest AI technology and gone through all of that pain to duct tape a whole bunch of things together. Come to this point, you think, oh, you know what? We could have just done nothing and bought the whole thing ready-made, shrink-wrapped in a box.
Assuming that you knew it was going to get built and that you could survive without an AI-based contact center for 10 years.
and that's the point, because if you'd waited, then you've had nothing. You've been doing that by hand and spending all that money. If you have something, you've got a lot of learning and you've been reaping the benefits for maybe 10 years already. But it's that ever-present dichotomy within the enterprise. Do you build or do you buy, or do you wait for something like this? Not really an easy answer for that, but great to see Google moving in that direction and supporting the enterprise, in this case with their contact center AI.
What is your thought on them as a player in the space, right? You've been involved in this stuff for, as you said, 20 years. There are a lot of established incumbents in the contact center space. Here you have a web scaler with, one of the top 9, AI companies and web scale companies on the planet, or top 10, whatever it is right now. And they say, hey, we've got, excuse me, all of this capability and capacity and tooling to build these end-to-end systems, but they're not well known or well regarded, I would say, as an enterprise application platform company. A lot of enterprises say, oh, that's really nice, but we won't trust you because these are all side businesses to you. They're struggling to build their core cloud business. They are in distant third place behind Azure, because a lot of companies say, we don't really trust you in the long run to keep Google Cloud running as an infrastructure company for the next 20 or 30 years. So it's interesting to me that they would try to launch a SaaS application with an AI foundation and that they would get any traction, because I would imagine, one, the incumbents are already doing this, and two, that enterprises would rather trust any of these established contact center players versus Google?
I think my short reply to that is yes, to all of that. I
Yes,
think
that all of those are complications.
I think you really hit the nail on the head there. I think that's Google's struggle in the enterprise is people think of them as, constant beta, Silicon Valley focused on startups. Yeah, we'll get to it. We're all funky and cool and kumbaya, and that's not what the enterprise wants. But on the other side, the one thing that's driving a lot of uptake in applications like this is their sales channels into using their cloud platform. So I think what's going to be a real driver in the enterprise for Google initially is building up that GCP user base. Because once you're on GCP, it makes it much easier for them to offer this as a bolt-on, something you can roll out on GCP, for example. And I know with Microsoft, we're going to talk about this in another episode, it is driving a lot of uptake on its different applications because of Azure, AWS similarly. So I think for Google, their key driver in the enterprise is going to be to get them on GCP. And then those customers that they've already got a relationship with are going to be more receptive to being offered a solution like this. But if they go in with a solution like this cold, like you said, and I think they're gonna really struggle.
Yeah, be interesting to see how they do with this. I think you said you had another Google update while we're on Google News.
Yeah, let's take a look at this one. Hopefully it's, I'll read through it. We don't have to look at the text too much. Google Maps, we all know Google Maps, blocked 100 million abusive edits in 2021 thanks to AI. Look at that number, 100 million.
Leaving 900 million untouched.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. That's extremely impressive given that they are trying to build global maps and keep global maps up to date by asking the crowd to sort of provide updates and then blocking malicious updates. That's pretty impressive.
So the key point here is, and this is looking at internally at what Google's doing, but where this applies to any enterprise is that scale. So when you're running at these kind of scales, whatever you're doing, if you're banking, doing transactions where you can get up to those kind of scales, whatever industry you're in, you might be have some processes running where you've got those kind of scales. You can only manage, maintain, look for issues at that scale with AI because it's just not possible using people. It says here more than 100 million edits were blocked, 7 million fake business profiles were removed. They're using a mix of AI and human, and so they're augmenting humans, and that's really, I think, what most businesses will do. The AI will trawl through most of it, cut out the most obvious things, and pass on to people what the things that they're not sure about. But that number should have been drastically reduced. So if you've got 100 million edits, the AI should be taking out 99,999,000 of those and passing on the 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 more gray area ones onto people, but a number that's tractable by people. Certainly 100 million is not tractable by any team anywhere.
Right. There's an interesting quote at the bottom of that page that says, they also removed more than 7 million fake business profiles, and a large portion of those were credited to AI, and more than 630,000 were based on user reports. So about 10 times as many of the crowd of humans saying, "Hey, this is a fake business profile." 10 times as many of those were removed by the AI system, which is pretty cool. Like you said, when you're running things like this at this scale, it's the only way to operate.
Right. And I mean, that's an interesting point because I think a lot of businesses have looked at kind of, quote unquote, crowdsourcing to get things done. But even at Google scale, that's 10x, 10x basically an order of magnitude less than what they needed to do.
Right.
So even the crowdsourcing at Google scale couldn't manage that. So I think that, if you're in an enterprise and you've got scale like this, that's often one of the first places to go to.
Excellent. Well, I think that's it for today in today's Google News track. And if you enjoy these quick news updates, you know what to do. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, post to your favorite social network, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Goodbye.